Today on Volunteer Houston, we're at the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation, Houston, and we're looking at what impact is here in the community and what's going on in and around Houston in 3 nonprofits. We're going to be talking with neighborhood centers and the impact that they need throughout the year, but really at 2 of their major events that go on and how that impacts our community. Then we'll move to the Mission Continues and talk about veterans and how you can get involved in veterans and what they do for our community. And lastly, we'll be meeting with our host to talk about what is this crisis that's going on and that we keep hearing about here in the Houston area. We're here with their AmeriCorps members today. They don't know that we're looking over their shoulders, but these people are doing great work here for our community, and we're so happy to be here. We're looking forward to seeing how you can get engaged and what volunteering means here in the Houston region. Again, I'm Cameron Waldner, and this is Volunteer Houston. And welcome back to Volunteer Houston. I am joined with one of our great community partners, Lauren Duplessis. Lauren, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Lauren, you're with neighborhood centers, and y'all are constantly out in the community doing a whole bunch of stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about your role at neighborhood centers?
Absolutely. I'm the manager of volunteer engagement with neighborhood centers. So what that means is that I get to oversee over 8,000 volunteers every year, over 70 different service locations. So at neighborhood centers, we serve over 500,000 clients every year. That's men, women, children, seniors, and we provide resources, education, and connection to them. What that ultimately means and what makes us different than other nonprofits is that instead of going into a neighborhood and saying, here's the problem, this is how we fix it, we start with the solution. We start with the strengths of our community. We ask them what are their strengths, their aspirations for them and their family.
So you're focusing within kind of like a neighborhood center, if you will.
Exactly.
You're starting within the neighborhood to find out what are kind of their strengths and how you can build upon that.
Yes, and every one of our community centers was created from the interaction that we have from our community, down to what it looks like and the programs that we have there.
And y'all have been around for a while now, is that right?
We've been around since 1907.
Wow, okay. So tell me, what are some of the typical volunteer projects y'all have going on?
So right now, our largest volunteer needs is our Houston Turkey Trot that happens every Thanksgiving morning. Okay. We're hoping to see over 16,000 runners each year, and so we need help filling water buckets, water
stations,
yes.
like handing out bananas, doing all of those.
Bananas. Yeah. Hoopla is a big deal. We want to make sure our volunteers.
Hoopla?
Well, Hoopla is volunteers who keep everybody going during the race.
So like cheerleaders.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
We need a couple hundred of them to make sure. I don't know if you've ever run a 10K, but towards the end you get kind of tired and need some inspiration. So that's what those volunteers are for.
So that's where like the couch to 10K. I think I'm more on the couch side right now. So so that's a big community need. What is that benefit? I mean, why are volunteers drawn to waking up early and like screaming and cheering?
Well, number one, the proceeds go directly to neighborhood centers, and those proceeds go directly to our youth and our senior services at neighborhood centers. So they help our youth and our seniors directly.
So apart from like the 8,000 volunteers, you have these other volunteers and another 16,000 people. So what does that ultimately translate into the community? What are y'all taking away and making that impact on?
So the funds that we raise from this goes towards our senior centers. So we have we have a dozen senior centers across Houston, and basically we create a place where seniors can come together and be in community with each other and have a sense of purpose. They all get a free meal as well, but the biggest part is to be together and to continue their education. This is a time in their lives where they want to do all the things they never had time to do. So we're looking for volunteers to teach classes there, fitness classes, arts instruction.
So how do volunteers find out about your opportunities? Is there a website or your Facebook or social media?
Yes, there is a website.
So what's that?
Neighborhood-centers.org.
Okay.
And click on the volunteer tab, fill out the volunteer application, and we'll be in touch with you very soon.
And that's going directly to you. You're screening these 8,000 emails?
Directly to me, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's always good to have a face with knowing who's answering your volunteer needs. So there's some other things that y'all do that are very impactful, that you're helping some of our lower income areas as well. Is that right? With taxes? Is
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Okay.
Every year we serve over 37,000 clients and neighbors by doing their tax returns free of charge. So these are low-income families that can't afford to get it done themselves, but also sometimes go to predatory services and are overcharged for a very basic tax return. So they get to keep all of the money that they've earned.
Oh, that's phenomenal. So you're really helping people within the community and using volunteers to engage and make sure that Houston's a better place.
Yes, our tax program is 90% run by volunteer tax preparers. So we'll train you, you'll take an IRS certification exam, and once you're done, January through April, you're just doing taxes for everyone who comes in the door. These are lower income families who do need the money for their basic bills and needs like that.
Very cool. So what are there any other programs that are out there that if you had a magic wand and you said, I need these volunteers today, like where are you going to plop those people down at?
Well, at neighborhood centers, there's a little bit of something for everybody. We have programs with our Head Start from 3 years to our senior programs towards till the end. And so basically, if you have a passion, something that you're interested in, would you like to teach a class at our community centers, there's something for everyone. So please just let us know what your passion is, and we'll do our best to match you with something that fulfills that passion.
Wonderful. So you do stuff in the fall for Turkey Trot. You're doing stuff in the spring to get folks engaged with taxes. There's volunteer opportunities really throughout the year. What's the age limit of your typical volunteers? Are you taking, we hear a lot of people saying we need families and kids to come out and volunteers, and a lot of young professionals as well.
For events like our Turkey Trot, that's a great one for families to come out.
Okay.
The whole family can get together Thanksgiving morning and burn that turkey off before they eat it. So we're looking for runners as well, of course.
So start with the negative calories and then go into it.
Right.
Wonderful.
And young professionals, the tax centers really is a great opportunity. We also have a need for assistance at immigration forums to educate our immigrant population about their options moving forward, and really teaching classes at our community centers, senior centers, and all of our locations as well.
Well, the immigrant piece must be huge for you. I mean, now with Houston being the most diverse city in the country, y'all must be doing a lot in that. And I think if memory serves me right, y'all were recently featured either in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, right?
The New York Times.
New York Times.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what are some of the awards and accolades that y'all are doing there at neighborhood centers.
Well, we're really proud of the fact that we were featured in the New York Times, mostly because they got it right and they understand why we're doing what we're doing. We want to be a safe place for everyone. When we started in 1907 as a settlement house, we existed to be a safe place for immigrant populations to come in and connect them to housing and schooling, career services, what to do for healthcare, and we're doing a lot of the same work now. So the New York Times really got it right. We're really excited to have them there.
Yeah.
And we're really excited also, we're proud of the exposure that we've had because of that.
Well, that's terrific. So really from youth engagement to families to helping our immigrant populations, both of past and of present, neighborhood centers really has something for everyone. So as our viewers at home are trying to find out more, what are the websites? What's the Facebook? Do y'all have any Twitter handles that we can look at? All of that nerdy fun stuff.
We do, yes. Our Twitter handle is @NHCenters.
Okay.
We do have a Facebook page. Just look up Neighborhood Centers Inc.
Okay.
And we should be the first one that comes up.
Wonderful.
Our main page for volunteering is neighborhood-centers.org. But specifically for the Houston Turkey Trot, it's HoustonTurkeyTrot.org.
Wonderful. So we have a lot of fun for the whole family. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today on Volunteer Houston, and thank you for everything that y'all are doing here in the community from 1907 moving forward. When we come back, we're going to be meeting with the Mission Continues, finding out what our veteran populations here in Houston are doing and how they're continuing to serve. And welcome back to Volunteer Houston. My name's Cameron Waldner. I am joined today with Brian Wilson from the Mission Continues. Brian, how are you doing today?
Doing great today, Cameron. How are you doing?
Oh, loving life. Tell me a little bit about what y'all do with the Mission Continues. I hear a lot of good things out in the community.
Oh, thank you very much. So we are a national service organization working primarily with military veterans in the post 9/11 era, so veterans who served after the 9/11 attacks, Iraq, Afghanistan era veterans. But unlike other veteran organizations, what we do primarily is we get veterans out involved in their community. So when veterans come to us, we're usually asking them, what do you want to do to serve your community in new ways?
Oh, that's fun. So kind of building upon the camaraderie that we've seen in generations past with like the American Legion, and then adding a service component. Is that kind of the picture that y'all paint?
Yeah, absolutely. So instead of just getting veterans together and having a club and just doing our own things, instead we're going to take that service mentality and put it back out in the community. We like to think that all of the veterans joined for a reason. When they first raised their right hand and gave that oath, they said they wanted to do something different.
Okay.
And when they get out of the military, they're sometimes missing something. They used to wake up every morning and have something really important to do. They used to make an impact in their community, in the nation, around the world. And even if they've had a great transition out of the military, have a reintegration, they wake up and they're like, how can I still do something that means something?
What's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
What's important? Yeah.
So you said you're a national organization. Y'all are here in town though too, right?
Yeah, that is correct. We have about 7 regional offices across the United States, and Houston is home to the headquarters for the Central Region.
That's awesome, and I know there's some phenomenal veteran stats out there, and Houston, if memory serves me right, is number 2 for returning veterans. That
is correct. More military veterans come to this town besides LA after they get out of the military. Houston has about 350,000 military veterans.
Wow.
About 10% of those served in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Wow, those are some phenomenal statistics. So what are y'all doing to engage them?
So we have 2 programs for military veterans to get involved with. We have sort of our high touch model and our low touch model. So the high touch is called the fellowship program.
Okay.
And veterans can apply to this program. It's a competitive process. But what they can do is they can go work at a nonprofit that they choose. So let's say you have a veteran who wants to get involved with disaster management. They can choose to go work at the Red Cross. And we sort of arrange that setup and we sponsor them to go work there for 6 months at a time.
What does that cost the nonprofit?
That costs nothing for the nonprofit.
Really?
So it's very similar to an AmeriCorps Vista program, but instead you're going to be getting a military veteran. We also do some management with them on a professional development course. So when you think about it, a nonprofit gets a great asset of a person who's had experience in leadership skills, team building skills, thinking outside of the box.
Now you're transitioning those into real world applications.
Exactly.
So.
And what's really nice about it is a lot of people come out of the military thinking that they have to do exactly what they did before. I was in the infantry, so I must be a police officer. I was an electrician, so I have to go be an electrician. But there's a lot of soft
supply chain
or whatever. But there's a lot of soft skills that the military has that a lot of nonprofits find as a great asset. And when you think about it, not everybody coming out of the military is a 24-year-old Marine. You have people coming out who are colonels who spent 20, 25 years in the military with multiple degrees. But when they come out, they're like, okay, I want to do something different. I want to do something that I've never explored before. And this nonprofit, path sounds like an awesome opportunity. So it's a really cool opportunity for nonprofits to get involved, to find a great new chance to bring new talent into the nonprofit pool. And that's called the fellowship program. Now,
you said there was a second one.
Yeah, the second program. So the second program is called Service Platoons. So a few years ago, we realized that while we've been doing great with our fellowship program, it's only been 1 or 2 veterans at a time. And it's very intense. It's a lot of investment on our part of staff, time, donors' money, and everything. But we have a lot of veterans out there who want to get involved, but they don't have the time to commit 6 months. I mean, it's pretty much a full-time job.
They can do like a weekend is what the other's looking at.
So how do we get you involved with a weekend? And so we put together these service platoons. So service platoons are teams of military veterans across the United States, and they adopt a project, either a neighborhood or a school or
like
a park.
An initiative or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so one of the things that we've done here in Houston is we have now 5 of these service platoons. There are 61 of them across the United States, and Houston has 5. So each of these platoons choose a different project. So for example, Houston 3rd Platoon works at a KIPP school. So 1 weekend a month, they're going to be doing something involved with the KIPP school. Cleaning, painting up classrooms, building outdoor classrooms, installing community gardens, trees, something that gets the community involved with the school. Another platoon works in the 5th Ward area. We're going to be kickstarting a platoon in Independence Heights. And then we're looking at having a platoon in Texas City is going to be working on some parks down there. So.
That's awesome. Now, I've actually had the opportunity firsthand to see y'all out volunteering, and we've actually seen y'all out with the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation out volunteering. Tell me, how is it that y'all are partnering with other nonprofits and schools, and what is that impact locally here in Houston looking like?
So what we like to say is we bring an awesome people power to the program. So we're not going to try to reinvent the wheel. There's great organizations like Volunteer Houston, Barbara Bush Literacy that have already established how to do certain things that are successful. And our job is to bring great volunteers. What I love is when we go out to these service projects and we'll have a school that's like, okay, well, we've worked with, you know, a group from a college, or we've worked at a group like from another high school, and they bring out 50 volunteers and they paint some stuff, and it's great. We feel good.
Yeah.
Well, we're bringing out military veterans who know how to work hard. Now, I mean, we've built things. We've torn down walls and rebuilt classrooms. We've put in 50 trees in one day. And what's really fun is at these projects, these veterans are starting to tell stories again. And they're starting to be a lot more comfortable. And everyone's starting to refer to each other by their first names. And they're talking about, remember back at Fort Hood, remember what happened when we were downrange in Afghanistan.
So it's like, it's therapeutic as well.
Very
so
therapeutic.
It's getting their families engaged, it's getting the community engaged, and it's building upon these skill sets that veterans have and taking it to nonprofits in our community.
And the best part is that, I mean, no one can ever say they've ever had a bad day of volunteering. You know, if you have a great project to work with, you have great organizations that put together awesome programs, you go out there and you feel great about yourself. And what's really important is you get connected to your community.
So how do people get connected with Mission Continues? What are some ways that they can find out?
Yeah, so missioncontinues.org/Houston. So you can actually go to the Houston section of our website.
Wonderful.
And there you'll have 5 of our service platoons listed by the neighborhoods or parts of the city that they work in.
If I'm not a veteran, can I sign up to be part of that?
Absolutely. So we want everyone in the community to be involved, because not only is it the veterans getting into the community, but we want to learn more about the community that we're hosting and helping out.
Very cool. What about Facebook, Twitter, hashtags?
Yeah, facebook.com/the Mission Continues. And then our Twitter handle is @MissionContinue, no S, because it was a little bit too long for that one right there. Yeah, and you guys can follow what we're doing all over the nation. Right now we have 61 service platoons in 36 different communities with more than 5,000 veterans. And at any given time, there's about 200 different nonprofits around the United States that are hosting a fellow.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us today, and I didn't say this earlier. Thank you to your service to our country.
Absolutely.
You know, we love it, and we love that you're still out there doing phenomenal work. When we come back, we're going to be meeting with the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation Houston and talking about the impact that they're making here, and then the crisis of literacy in our region. And welcome back to Volunteer Houston. I am joined with our host today, Julie with the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation. Julie, you're the president, is that right, of the foundation here?
Yes, that's correct, Cameron.
Very fun. Well, tell me a little bit about how you came into your role for working for the former First Lady.
Well, thank you. Actually, I've been in public education for around 22 years.
Okay.
And so before coming to the foundation, I was actually on the leadership team at Houston Independent School District.
Very fun.
And in my role as Chief Academic Officer, I was very involved in all of the community work, in particular around literacy.
Okay.
And I happened to be at a Houston Center for Literacy meeting in March of 2013 where I met Neil Bush, and he was speaking about his vision for wanting to advance his mother's legacy interest right here in their hometown, and to design a blueprint for community action. And so subsequent to that meeting, I introduced myself, and Neil and I struck off a great conversation.
That's phenomenal. Very fun. So from there, y'all are now making an impact, and you took it. Neil can be very persuasive.
He was.
You know, so very fun. So what are some of the things that y'all have found from 2013 moving forward that, you know, is it just clear skies, blue pasture, we're doing great, or is it, you know, we've got, I think there's a word y'all are using. What's
crisis.
that? Crisis.
A crisis.
That's a little bit different than blue skies. Tell
Absolutely.
us about this crisis that we're facing here in Houston.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, and I appreciate you being involved in this effort too, Cameron. As you know, we brought about 100 community leaders across the city together over a 7-month period, facilitated by our friends at Deloitte, to really dig deep into learning more about the literacy data that exists in our community, and then to develop a plan of action to tackle Houston's literacy crisis. And so we published in April of 2014 Blueprint for Community Action, which really articulates that crisis and spells out strategies and practical actions that we can take as a community. And so since the time that we've released that, we've really been focusing on 4 key areas. One is to elevate awareness of the importance of literacy and the crisis that we have. Secondly, to mobilize volunteers, which we have a great partnership with Volunteer Houston in doing that.
We may know someone, yes.
Third is contributing research and innovation. So much like the Blueprint, this year we focused on publishing a new report that speaks to the problem that we have with chronic absenteeism, which is a really underlying factor to low literacy. When kids, particularly of poverty, aren't coming to school on a regular basis, they suffer academically.
Kind of miss some of the important things in class when you're not there.
Absolutely. And so then the fourth area that we focus on is investing in community impact. So we really believe that change will come when we invest heavily in neighborhood change, and that leaders within those communities step up to take action on behalf of their residents to say enough is enough. You know, literacy is a foundational skill and a fundamental skill for success in school, work, and life, and we've had enough of these low literacy rates, so we're all going to get together and do something about it.
So this is something that really impacts us all. So taking and building from the skill set that you had at HISD and now pulling this into the community, y'all are making some real big leaps and bounds, and I guess people can find the Blueprint online. Is that true? So that they can find a way to get engaged?
Yeah, absolutely. On our website, you can find all of our reports, including the Blueprint, and there are some practical strategies. We also have a great way people can get involved, not only through our website, but also our Connect for Literacy volunteer portal.
So what's Connect for? You said it's the volunteer portal. So how easy is it? They just plop into Connect for Literacy and they're volunteering right away? What's that look like?
It's much like for any other volunteer site that you might go to. There's a membership, so there's a login, so you have to set up some credentials, but you can easily shop for and sign up for volunteer opportunities.
And y'all have one of the first opportunities that I've seen of this nature where you can actually sit at your desk in your office and volunteer. Is that right? Where you're right there, you don't have to leave, you can just right there make an impact in a kid's life.
Yeah, the beauty about what we've been able to do is to bring together a coalition of partners, both through the libraries, through nonprofit literacy providers who are using this platform to post opportunities. But one of the unique relationships that we have is with HISD.
Wonderful.
And through their Read Houston Read program, we are working with them to help to build their volunteer base. And through Read Houston Read, you can volunteer in 2 ways. One is the traditional face-to-face, and I myself love to go to Walnut Bend and volunteer with my 2 young little boys, Stefan and Caden, and read with them 30 minutes a week. And then the online partner that we have is with Innovations for Learning. So they have an online volunteer reading platform called TutorMate, and in fact Neil Bush is a volunteer.
Very fun.
And so you don't have to get out and get in your car and go to a school or a library to really make a difference. You can just log in and sign up, and you actually have you're virtually volunteering with a child in a participating school.
That's so just engaging there. And I mean, volunteers should be just leaping at this to get it done. And is this something that's just for kids? Is that where the crisis is focused on, or is this something that really hits the whole person?
Well, Read Houston Read is a child-based program. It's in 1st and 2nd grades in more than 70 HISD schools. But the crisis exists among children and adults of all ages. In fact, you may not even know this, Cameron, but 1 in 5 Houston adults are functionally illiterate.
That's terrifying. Maybe that's why traffic is so bad right now.
that may be part of it, or why your taxes are so high, or why healthcare costs are so high. And so, I mean, we really have a crisis, and we believe that when we look at the data both for early childhood and when we look at young children, when the brain develops much more rapidly, we're finding that there are a significant number of children who enter kindergarten each year behind, lacking those foundational reading skills necessary for success, which really sets their trajectory for their future academic success.
And I've dabbled in the Blueprint here. So if they're not on reading by, what is it, grade 3?
By 3rd.
Like their future is almost written.
Yeah, research shows that if children aren't reading proficiently by the end of the 3rd grade, it's a really transition time for them where they're sort of moving from learning how to read to reading to learn. And if children aren't reading, at that time frame, then they're 4 times more likely to drop out, and dropouts are 7 times more likely to live in poverty.
My goodness.
So we really have an epidemic. I mean, it really is an epidemic here, and we know that there's a lot of research around how the education level of a mother is very highly correlated to a child's literacy level as well. So there's an intergenerational that continues. So this whole breaking, we're really trying to break the cycle of low literacy, and that's necessary to break the cycle of poverty.
And you get to do that with the legacy of the First Lady and here in Houston and continuing that on. What's your greatest takeaway from that, or just moment of awe that you've had working with that?
I would say how willing people are across the Houston community to come together to address this important cause. I moved here to Houston 6 years ago and haven't regretted a minute of it. Houston is a can-do city. It's a very generous city, and I know that, and I've seen the evidence over the last couple of years, everyone's willingness to come together and find, a role that they can play.
And the websites again, real quick, are...
Our website is bushhoustonliteracy.org, and our volunteer management platform is connect4literacy.org.
Any hashtags, Facebook, all of that as
well? All of
there?
That is on there on our website.
Julie, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for hosting us. We'd like to thank you again for watching Volunteer Houston. We hope that you're able to find a way to volunteer and connect with your passions. Today we heard from neighborhood centers where you can engage either with a turkey trot running around Houston or doing tax assessment and helping those in critical need. We talked about how veterans can get engaged and how you can work with our veteran community and the impact that they're making not only for our community but also for our nonprofits by increasing their capacity. And last we met with the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation and addressing what can only be described as a crisis for our community. These are all things that we hope that you'll be able to find a great way to volunteer in Houston. You can always find out more by visiting our website, which is www.volunteerhouston.org, or you can visit us on Facebook at Volunteer HOU, and our Twitter is also Volunteer HOU. There's always great opportunities and there's always a way to serve. Thank you for making Houston one of the best cities in the country to volunteer, and really the best city in the country to get out and get engaged. Thank y'all again, and this has been Volunteer Houston.